Hey everybody, John Van Dyke here for New Jersey Exposed. Today is Friday, August 20th, 2021. Time is about 4 p.m. Jersey time, Spotswood time to be exact, because that's where I'm at. Alright, for some of you who have been following my channel, you know back on Easter 2021, I had a little run-in with a Tinton police officer. How's it going, Mr. Riaz? How are you?
Oh, you're that gentleman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just wondering why you're stopping me, bothering me.
Well, you're on school property.
So was those gentlemen over there.
But those kids are playing baseball.
Yeah,
I was just going to ask you what you're doing. Okay, other than that, is there another reason you're here?
Yeah, I'm enjoying a nice day.
Okay, do you mind if you leave the property?
Are you ordering me? You asking me?
I can order you, I'm asking you to leave.
Well, if you're going to ask me to leave, then you got to ask them to leave too. Who attempted to violate my rights and run me off the property while others were allowed to stay on the property. Though he could never articulate any crime or what his authority was to tell me to leave, but I left because the car was parked there and I didn't want the car to get impounded or anything like that. So anyway, a complaint was filed. I think numerous complaints were filed, and I have received the responses back to the complaints. And the first response I got dated July 9th, which comes from Lieutenant Scott Trocchia, who, by the way, I know somebody in his family. This reads as follows. There was 2 complaints because there was 2 officers involved. The first one here has to do with Riaz. That's a little short affirmative action officer that showed up and tried to run me off the property. He's also known as the dog killer, costing taxpayers a lot of money so far. Anyway, so the first letter I got says, the Internal Affairs Unit of this department has completed its investigation of your complaint concerning the incident involving Patrolman Adrian Riaz. The investigation revealed that the alleged incident was exonerated. That means that he did not, in their opinion, violate any department policies, but we know for a fact he violated a few other things. And it just says, if you have any questions, call us, blah, blah, blah. So the one person, the next officer involved, who's a corporal, who really, he kind of got drawn into this, but he put the noose around his own neck. And this has to do with, I called him Corporal Cisco Kid. He's the one with the mask on. It didn't have any badge or anything on it to identify who he was, and that is a violation. So I got the response back on that, and that's also from Lieutenant Scott Trocchia. The Internal Affairs Unit of this department has completed its investigation of your complaint concerning the incident involving Corporal Robert Wilson. The investigation revealed that the alleged incident was sustained. Okay, so this brings us to the next step, which is I had sent in an OPRA request because I wanted to get the dash cam video, I wanted the radio transmissions, I wanted the officers' reports, I wanted all the information I get so I could figure out what's going on here and what our next course of actions would be. I had gotten a letter back, said that they were denying my OPRA request, said it was an ongoing investigation. You know, it never fails. These police departments need hours and hours on end to look at a video and figure out what went wrong. Well, we know what went wrong. The corporal there, he got in trouble because he broke one of the department policies. It's also state policy as far as I know. So that brings us to the next step, is one of our partners in this quest to get our civil rights respected is the owner and runner, operation manager of the, in this day and age, YouTube channel, my friend, Mr. Steve Rocco. And Mr. Steve Rocco had put in his own OPRA request, and he received the same basic letter back from Tinton Falls that I got, only Steve was not going to stand for that. And so this is where the show picks up. Now it picks up with Steve, and let me get the camera over there to him.
Hey y'all.
How's it look? They're pretty good?
A little bit down. The other way. I'm sorry. There we go. That's
right there?
Yeah, so I did the OPRA request as well. I know New Jersey Exposed, so my expertise, I guess, is really public records requests. So I know that, you know, a lot of people don't sue for it. I kind of feel it's my hobby to sue. And make sure that these guys are transparent, that we know what's going on. In the video that I received from Tinton Falls, you know, it took a lawsuit to get it to be transparent because they don't want to be transparent. They violated his rights to be able to be on public property. You know, what would be the case if he said, "Oh, I want to play baseball now"? You know, what would be the excuse now that he can't be there? So the public records request lawsuit probably cost them, for my end, probably about $10,000, I would imagine. And then obviously their attorney's going to cost the township money as well. So, you know, it's not their money. You really don't care how much money they spend. But they tried saying that I used a fictitious name, and I couldn't do that. I could do it anonymously, but I chose William Bailey, which is Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses' real name. So basically when they kind of brought that up to the judge kind of laughed it off, like, whatever. Because you are allowed to use any name that you want until you go out for a lawsuit. Then, you know, you have to come out of the shadows and say who you are. So I was able to get the police reports is what I asked for. I asked for the use of force reports, and I believe one of them was probably the dog shootings, and heavily involved with animal rescue here in New Jersey. We were successful in getting rid of the NJSBCA and Helmetta Shelter, amongst other animal issues. You know, we were able to get the Internal Affairs Investigation form, which they also denied everything on my end, saying it was an open investigation. My attorney asked how come it wasn't certified. So basically, that's one of the reasons that they could deny you. So basically, if you're looking for information or something that's going to be damning to them, their catch-all is it's an investigation. Therefore, now they can deny it. You know, we don't believe there's any kind of investigation going on. When they stopped you, they just kind of make things up and run with it. They don't have to really answer to anybody. They investigated themselves. They found they did nothing wrong. You violated your civil rights. They illegally detained you, illegally ran your name, told you to leave, that you're trespassing. I believe he also said it was private property. At one point, the corporal?
He stated that he knew the athletic director and that those kids had permission to be out there, and I didn't.
So one of the public records requests that I did, and they said that there was nothing responsive, was any permission for anybody to be on there. They have nothing. So they get caught in lies when you do transparency. You know, when you do public records requests, and every single state has this kind of information that you can get. So you can investigate, you know, post office, which is federal, but it's harder to get a FOIA request back from the feds. Could take 2 years if you want.
So people know, a lot of people don't know. Could you explain like what a FOIA is, like what it stands for, Freedom of Information? Because a lot of people don't know that's a federal
Well, it's federal and
equivalent
there's state.
to OPRA.
Right. So different states, I think they also call it FOIA. So FOIA request is Freedom of Information Act request. So that's how, you know, sometimes they'll do it on UFOs or John F. Kennedy, and you know it's all the federal stuff. Your FBI thing is federal. You know, your file for the FBI is a federal thing. And then you have public records requests in different states. So here it's Open Public Records Act, and basically you just OPRA request it. You email the town usually, the town clerk. Just type in the town and look for the clerk's email address. Send in saying I'm requesting public information under the Open Public Records Act and common law, and I'd like all correspondence sent to me via email electronically. That way they can't charge you. You know, that's how you get them. You know, like I got a ticket years ago for a tinted window. Had a permit for it here in New Jersey, and I beat the ticket, but when I did the public records request, they denied it. They played games, so I sued them for that, and it cost, that $50 ticket cost them $5,000 plus all the manpower that they had to do. So, you know, even if you just do it that way, just you get a $50 ticket, you want to cost them manpower, you can ask for all
Well, that's
attorney
one of the videos that Matt and I did a while back, how to beat the man at his game. So if they stop you and you got a $50 ticket, you go and file over request, you file, you want a trial on this thing, even though
Right.
you know you're going to lose, but you just cost them a lot of money that,
Right.
all right, yeah, I had to pay out $50 plus court fees, but you had to pay out a couple $1,000 for the lawyer.
Right, and they don't care because it's not their
But
money.
if everybody did that, it would become
It would bog down the
It
system.
would bog down the system. It
Right.
would not be profitable for them to be doing all that.
They'd have to create a new system.
Right.
Right.
Now,
So-
Steve, just to get back on track, you saw the dash cam video. You
Yes.
saw my video. I'm on the thought that they did not want to release that dash cam video because that incriminated even more with the conversation that the two of them had.
Correct.
And that's the reason. So what do you think about their video versus what you saw
They
online?
conspired. He conspired. So a lot of times when they take off and they go talk to another cop, you can get those videos a lot of times unless they pause it, which really they shouldn't be doing because it's still a public record. But they conspired against you. Okay, we'll get him for trespassing. Okay, they didn't even care what you had to say. Didn't
Right,
care that you were
right.
eating lunch. Didn't care that you were doing nothing wrong. There was excuse
Yeah,
for
I knew
everything.
that was a game, him showing
Yep.
up. So as soon as I saw it was a corporal, I said, "Oh, I got a corporal? That's one step above."
It could be a lieutenant. They're going to take that guy's word for it. The thin
Right,
line.
exactly. I understand
That's
the
it.
boys' club on that,
Yeah.
and
They
but I got in
investigated
there because
themselves.
I didn't feel safe with Rios because he's a loose cannon over
Sure.
there. He could shoot me.
He's
and-
got a loaded gun.
You know, but thank goodness I had my video because their video doesn't show the corporal without his equipment on
Correct.
and everything.
Your best bet in society, anything that's going on, is to pull out your camera and start
Right.
recording. That's really
But
got to
make
be
sure
your
you
first
put it
thing.
out the window first before you get out of the car so they see it's not a gun.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt Tim is
Now,
there. Matt
when
Tim's
you
on the
use
thing.
the word conspiring, it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was thinking the same thing. Should I get...
Yeah, go ahead if you want to get over and get into
Now,
that.
when you use the word conspiring, I think it's interesting because by conspiring, what you're saying is when Rios went over to the police corporal's car, they were trying to pre-plan or premeditate what their next game plan was going to be. Should John have reasserted his rights, what they were
Correct.
going to be able to charge him with,
Right.
whether it was obstruction or trespassing
Right.
or anything of that
You
nature.
know what's interesting is he says, I know the athletic director. Well, the athletic director is not in charge of the property.
Correct.
The
That's
Board of Ed of Monmouth Regional High School is in charge of it. So it was all BS. It was all
Right.
BS right from the start.
Right, and we could request the Board of Education there to see if there's any permission.
Well, I think one of the things that's coming out, because the conversation I had downtown was that they were going to look into that and see what the status is of that, because there is a no trespassing sign in the driveway. It's been there for 50 years, okay? I can attest to that. I've seen that sign for 50 years. It's never been enforced. People are out there all the time, and now this jackass comes along who has no authority to trespass anybody from the Board of Ed, trying to trespass somebody based on their activity.
And you could do a public records request to see if there's any kind of service agreements or anything
Right.
like that to be authorized to be on that property to do that kind of stuff.
Any
You
kind
know,
of established policy on the board
Right.
of Ed's part, giving the police
Right.
department permission. Yeah.
Right, and the basis of public records requests and all this kind of stuff is to sue them into submission, into doing the right thing,
Yep.
into making sure that they're transparent, and in your case, you could certainly go to now the Board of Ed and to the council and say, there's a video out there, you guys did wrong, and embarrass them, because they probably don't even know it's out there. So sue them into submission and then embarrass them. You don't want to give them the heads up. You want to go there and ask them the leading questions of, or are we allowed to go over to the school and eat lunch? And Board of Ed is going to be able to answer that. Really not the town, but the town you could say, are your police officers allowed to issue warnings? Oh yeah, they can. No, they can't.
They have to have a letter from the Board of Ed saying that nobody's allowed. If anybody's in here, we want you to
Right,
tell them to
everybody.
leave. Everybody, not one. See, that's where Rios screwed
It's
up.
selective prosecution.
Right, that's exactly what he did, and that was my beef all along. Well,
Right.
you're telling me to leave, but you're not telling them. Who are you? Who are you to make that decision?
Right, they're doing nothing wrong, but you are by eating here and asserting your rights. You're now being aggressive and not
Emasculating, as he
cooperative.
put it in there.
Right, and you said you were aggressive and everything too. So when you're not bowing down to them, because if you said yes, officer,
Oh yeah,
no,
yes,
no
balls, yes,
problem,
balls,
officer.
yes, balls.
How far can I dance, officer?
Right.
You would have been fine. You wouldn't have been aggressive. You've been compliant and asserting his authority. But when you challenge their authority, and obviously you didn't ask if you were being detained, it's the first things that you do. Am I being detained,
Right.
or am I free to go? If you're free to go, don't talk to him if you're detained.
I think he did though.
I probably did. I have to
Oh,
go back and
you
look
might
at the
have.
video because that's one of the things right off the top of my
You
mouth.
plead the fifth, you plead the sixth,
Right.
then they can no longer question you, and if they do, they're in violation of the law.
Right.
That's it, and it doesn't matter if you're under arrest yet. He's a government official questioning you. I want a lawyer if you're going to question me.
Well, I think
If not,
I
see
questioned
it.
him back. I didn't. I mean, Matt said to me, he says, "You put this guy." He bowed down to you a little bit. And I go, "Well, I'm not the typical person you're rolling up on. I know how to ask
Right.
questions, and I don't get intimidated by it simply because you're a cop. I'll
Well-
spend the night in jail. You're not scaring me."
Well, a lot of people that are watching this are seeing what our rights are and how you can assert
Right,
them.
we show them in action. But you know, in implementing your rights, you have to be very confident in what you're doing.
And knowledgeable.
And knowledgeable. Don't go out there and say, "Hey, I know my rights. I know my
Right,
rights."
and be wrong.
When I hear somebody start doing that, I know, for lack of better words, they sound like an idiot to me.
Right. And
If you don't tell an officer, you show him. You
right,
know your
and
rights.
when every time they hear, "Oh, I'm going to sue you," yeah, get in line. But somebody like me that sues all the time, dude, I'm going to sue you guys and look up my name because you're going to get sued. And I'm sure the
Right.
clerks talk to each other. I'm sure the cops know, to certain degrees.
My thing there at Monmouth Regional, that's like my little happy spot I
Sure.
like to go to. And I really didn't want to get into a pissing contest
Sure.
with Tinton Falls Police. I wanted to keep it
Civil.
civil, warm and fuzzy and everything. And so far, that's the way it's staying right now.
Right.
I'm not
And-
looking to pick a fight with
Yeah,
them.
you're not
But
there to cause
they
trouble.
disrespected me too when I asked for my OPRA request. They disrespected you.
Correct.
Because now they're being shady by trying to cover up what they did, and they don't want me to hear the little conversation that
Right.
they have between each other. They don't want me to hear the radio
And they
transmission.
broke the law.
Right.
Plain and simple. They broke the law
They
by
didn't want me to see that
with
cat
you,
report.
but also with me and with you
Right.
with the OPRA request. But they broke the law, and so in New Jersey, when you do a public records request and you're entitled to the paperwork, you can get an attorney for free. The town has to pay the fees when you win. So I pay nothing. My attorney probably has gotten over $1 million. Not the one I used on this case, but one of my attorneys has gotten over $1 million the last 7 years.
The sad thing about it,
I've gotten zero.
it's always the taxpayer that ends up taxing me,
Correct.
you, me,
not their money.
anybody else. We're the ones that are on the hook for these bad
That's right.
policies.
But when you sue them in the submission, right? When somebody has no idea and all of a sudden kind of learns OPRA a little bit, hopefully they just give it to them. We don't want to get sued again.
right.
We're tired of getting
Right.
sued.
That's right.
And
But
you're entitled to
now
it.
here's
So
another thing. Now this happened down in a town down in the south end of Monmouth County. We won't mention no names, but that person sent in like a laundry list of ridiculousness of OPRA requests. And where do we draw the line with somebody like that who's sending in a laundry list? I want every payroll record of every employee for the
Since
last.
1955.
right.
Yeah.
So obviously voluminous and stuff like that you don't want to do. But like a lot of times I'll ask for SOPs. I just did it with a town in Springfield, New Jersey. There's one north, and this one's by Collingswood Auction. So I told them, it takes 6 months. And they're kind of, "Oh, we can charge you a service fee." Listen, I can create 20 different email addresses and ask for each little section of it to make it not voluminous, and now you have 7 days to get it to me.
That's right.
So what game you want to play? I got more games than Milton Bradley.
That's right.
So you can take 6 months, or I can make 20 different emails and get it to you in
All right,
7
so now we're
days.
gonna get another thing that something Matt brought up. You got the use of force reports on RIA. So
Correct.
I never asked for it. Didn't even think to ask for it. I saw he had a lot of compliance holds on there, but Matt saw something else on there where he did something to somebody, and that person had to go to the hospital and take it over from there, Matt.
With office, I think that not too long ago we had the force report in New Jersey,
Right.
and the force report was a collaborative effort where I think it was a team for the Star Ledger,
Asbury Park Press.
Asbury Park
Yeah,
Press.
They also have data
NJ,
university. You can see everybody's salaries.
Yeah.
So in front of cops, I usually look up their salaries. You make 120 grand,
Right.
80, so we're 20, 50 grand standing here doing nothing.
Right.
Exactly. But and they had a statewide average of 4.5 on average for a
Use
year
of
for
force.
exactly, and a law enforcement officer. But they made distinctions between the municipalities where they work, which is an apt distinction. Obviously, an officer in a town like Newark or New Brunswick or Plainfield is going to have a higher use of force average than an
Right.
officer in Spotswood or
Right.
Denellen or
Or if you're working at night or a drug area.
exactly
stuff like that.
a traffic
Yeah.
cop versus a
I think it really has
Yeah.
to do with what type of use of force is it.
No, anything. So if your compliance holds stuff like that.
Right, exactly.
Shooting,
Yeah, but what I'm saying, you're looking at the report, so you're going to look at it and say, well, what use of force did he do? There was a compliance hold. What did he do? Did he clock him upside the head with the nightstick? Did he?
if you just tense up, that's resisting arrest, according
Right. Yeah, if you turn away or anything like
to
that.
just tensing.
Well, we know Tinton Falls. Tinton Falls is it's I'm not gonna say well-to-do, but it's an upper middle class town.
It's becoming well-to-do.
Exactly.
It's growing.
Yeah, it's got money. Monmouth County is very.
Right. I mean, from when I
very
was there,
wealthy.
it was middle class. Everybody worked at the fort,
Right.
and that was it. Now it's fort's gone, and now the big houses are being built. So anyway,
Right,
back
or
get on to
Monmouth.
the thing
It's
about
not
Rios.
it's not an area where you expect to see an officer accumulate a large volume of use of force reports. Officer Rios has been on the force, I think, for 4 years.
5
and
years,
change.
5 years,
5
yeah.
years. 5 years now. Okay. Now, the use of force reports that Steve uncovered regarding Officer Rios showed that in 3 consecutive domestic violence calls that he was called to, that he had used restraint holds, and in none of the
But what is the definition of a restraint hold? Is that a knee on the back of somebody's neck?
Probably with arm, but I mean, I guess it could be. You're restraining them.
Probably,
Yeah, I mean,
probably. But the thing is, in the one case, there was no violent charge. The suspect was never arrested for assault. He was never arrested for resisting arrest. So the question remains: if he was arrested simply for violating a restraining order, which was the case 2C29-9, I analyzed all of the use of force reports, and Officer Rios felt the need to use force. Why is he using force against nonviolent suspects? That's a question. Okay, that's a question right there. If you're going to use force against a suspect, well then I at least expect to see a disorderly conduct.
now didn't somebody have to go to the
assault.
hospital?
Exactly. Somebody had to go to the hospital, and that's a box that's checked off.
Sure.
If medical attention was needed, there were several of those. And the point is there's a pattern that's growing here. That's
They're not
mounting.
following up on it after the person's hurt.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. They're trying to brush this aside. There's no uniformity in the use of force reports from the Tinton Falls Police Department as to who's approving it. In some cases, you have a lowly corporal that's half a step above patrolman approving it.
Right.
In others, you have a lieutenant or a captain approving it.
Right.
It's not a uniform process. They're doing the bare minimal that they need to meet muster of state law. But what those use of force reports prove, when combined, is that there's a systematic pattern on Officer Reyes' behalf where he's violating people's rights and using more force than what's necessary, and he's not being held to account for it. I'm sorry, but even if you have one nonviolent suspect that has to be put in a compliance hold, then that still begs the question as to why you had to use
Why
force.
are you being violent on somebody who's not being violent? Are you escalating?
Exactly.
Right.
Why are you using violence on a nonviolent
I mean, we're
suspect?
seeing a pattern with this guy because he's afraid of 2 dogs. He shoots the 2 dogs, kills one of them,
Right.
and then he holds the father and daughter at gunpoint.
When's enough enough?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody's a hardened criminal ready to kill cops. I mean, that's just not the case.
Yeah.
You know, and I get it. You know, you pull somebody over, you don't know if they do have a knife, if they have a gun. Regular citizen that all of a sudden flips
I
out
want to
and
say
does
that
something.
all 3 of us here are open-minded and sensitive to the problems that cops have to
Sure.
deal with on the job, and we're not
They
hammering
need
them.
mental health help as well. They see
Right.
decapitated heads.
Right.
They see kids that just got molested.
Right.
They see a lot of
cigarettes,
stuff.
assault,
So we
and
don't do
Right.
it. We don't get it, and we just don't attack these cops because we hate cops.
We
We're
need good
attacking them
cops.
because there's a problem
Yeah.
going on. I don't say attacking's the wrong word. We're looking much closer and having a conversation about it because there's something going on that needs to be looked. And this Rios guy has a pattern, and he's only been on the job 5 years. He's killed a dog, held 2 people at gunpoint. He's used compliance holds on people who weren't violent. He's cost how much money on the first lawsuit? That's probably got to be in the hundred thousands now.
Oh, at
Oh,
least.
more, yeah,
At least
definitely.
half.
With that
And you
lawsuit.
can ask for all attorney invoices involved with that.
Yeah, that's something that we're going to be working on.
Right.
It was a Matt Tim job. And then they got the thing where Rios caused another problem. Rios, just by engaging with me, caused a corporal a problem. I feel bad for the corporal.
Right.
He's the one.
He got pulled into it, sure.
He got roped into this deal, so he got clobbered for not having his uniform on properly. And then there's an OPRA request goes in where they refuse to get it, and now they have the town had to pay out, had to pay their
The clerk
lawyer.
got sued.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
They had another lawsuit, an OPRA lawsuit. The town had to pay their lawyer, and they had to pay
Yeah, probably
Bill
10,
Bailey's
yeah.
attorney's
Yeah,
fees.
probably $10,000-$15,000.
I think that's
Right.
light. I think
Yeah.
that's real light.
Yeah, it might be
And
more.
that's just one person. Imagine what else goes on during the course of the day, the course of the week, the month, the year.
That doesn't get reported.
That doesn't get reported. You know, one thing I want to say, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to law enforcement, but every day I read these stories, make my videos, and I start to realize how stupid cops are.
That's right.
Yeah, you have to have a certain IQ. You know, good,
yeah,
bad,
and it
indifferent.
can't be above.
Well, you see somebody running out of a bank with a gun. You know, you want to pull the gun out. Where somebody with analytical, you know, if I shoot them, it might shoot somebody behind them. Let me get behind a car. They want somebody to go freeze.
Yeah.
You know, they don't want the analytics of making sure that other people are safe
Right.
and stuff like that.
The
They want you to act.
The big question is now we're cogs in the system, people.
Sure.
I mean, all that we can do is address this on a micro basis.
Well, we
case
can
basis.
expose it because we have social media platforms
Exactly.
now, and that's why I got the attention I got because I had the YouTube channel and 50,000 phone calls going into headquarters about this. If I was just some schmuck on the street got stopped and didn't have my camera and didn't have my know-how and didn't have my YouTube channel, this thing
Brushed under the rug. That's it.
it would have been under the rug and that would have
Right.
been the end of it.
Would have been non-issue.
You know, they all need cameras, and you know, when we do find these problem childs, now you can now, especially with New Jersey, you're supposed to have body cameras. Now we as citizens can now keep tabs on them.
Right.
There's nothing to say, you know, start over requesting their dash cameras every couple days. You know, every time this guy pulls somebody over on a certain day, I want to see them. And then anybody could do an IA complaint. You don't have to be involved with it. So if you were to do an OPRA request on, you know, all his pullovers today, and he acted weird on one of them and did something illegal, call up. I want to do an IA on that.
I appreciate you bringing that up because that brought me to the next point that has been stirring in my brain. And the next point that I was stirring on is there's nothing prohibitive against anybody, including one of us, submitting a revised or amended internal affairs complaint to the Tinton Falls Police Department on different grounds
Sure.
than what it's already been decided on.
Sure.
And Matt, we had that conversation, and what is the complaint that you saw that I didn't really pay much attention to?
Which one of the dozen?
Which has no, it has to do with my rights being violated. Because
Well-
I really never made a big stink about that. I was more
Yeah, you don't want problems. You just want to go eat
I
lunch
was
and
more
that's it.
pissed off
Come
that
on.
this jackass came over here and told me I had to leave and he had no authority. That's what pissed me off more than anything.
You know, and it's like, oh, you're instigating. Oh, you know, I just want to eat lunch. You're coming over here bothering me. I'm not
Right.
going to you. You know, oh,
But
you're a
you know,
Darren
if
or
you
a
saw the
Karen.
video, I was facing the wrong way.
That's
You know?
right.
I should
But
be
it's
facing looking
but it's
at
a
the
parking
kids.
lot. So 3958-1, unless DLT surveyed that, you can't even get a ticket for that. So that's garbage.
And that property in the back, some of that's 3 acres. Property
It's not
back,
useful
it's like this, not even
Right.
the Board of Ed's, you know.
Right. So you know, there's 10 million laws on the books. So they have their pet peeves of, you know, tinted windows or whatever the case is. And when they come up to an actual crime or something silly like that, they just make it up as they go.
Oh yeah, and the reason they do that, people, is because they've been trained that it's okay. We have trained them as society, people who are ignorant to our rights, we have trained them to behave like that.
Right.
And when
They're the
now we get
authority.
people like us questioning them, they get triggered, and of course, as I always say, these big guys always resort to violence to solve a
Right.
problem, and that's what police do. They immediately resort to violence. That's why I say never call them to your
Right.
house for family problems.
That's right.
No, definitely not. I mean, the one time I was told I was loitering, like, you want me to walk up and down the street like right here? Yeah. Well, since 1976, that law is out of.
Well, loitering
Well,
is in a place without purpose.
Yeah,
Well, you
but,
had a
but
purpose.
there's no such law.
Right.
They made it up.
Right.
It's gone.
Right.
So now, unless it's for drug related thing, like if you're standing there selling drugs, but if I'm just standing there waiting for a ride, there's no such thing as loitering.
So
New
Matt,
Jersey.
tell everybody, what is the violation of my rights? What
Well,
did you see
the
from your
next-
analytical
The
mind?
next internal affairs complaint that I submit it's going to be three-pronged. There's going to be two complaints we're going to start out against Officer Reyes. The one is, like Mr. Ronco enunciated, that he deprived John of his right to enjoy a public thoroughfare or public grounds. The second one is going to be he failed to articulate a reasonable basis for why Mr. Van Dyke was being detained. Those are the two against him, and I love it. I dare the Tinton Falls Police Department to say that that doesn't amount or that doesn't surmount to a violation of Mr. Van Dyke's constitutional rights under the Fourth Amendment.
Correct.
Okay. Now the third one is, and this is going to be the punch below the belt on our good friend Detective Corporal Robert Wilson, and what that is Detective Corporal Robert Wilson lied through his teeth. He said that he was in communication with the Tinton Falls athletic director as to who was and who was not to use the school property. Bullshit.
Yep.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
Right, he hadn't been a school resource officer in a while.
Well, I did the OPRA request and it came back as non-responsive. That means they have nothing.
Right.
Zero. So you lied. So again, making up as they go.
That's right.
Right.
And when they're called on the carpet about that IA complaint, it should be interesting how that pans out. The fact that he lied to a citizen about something on the record, it's recorded. So he provided a false statement. But if you provided a false statement to him,
You're arrested.
that's right.
Now some officers, and I'm not sure if any of these are, in New Jersey you have the Brady Giglio list, which if you lie and you're found to be untrustworthy, you can't even testify. So if you were to get a ticket from, let's say, Mr. Reyes, if he was on that list, you could fight it and he came to go on the stand and testify against you.
So if he can't testify, the ticket would get
Uh-huh.
torn.
So, and they're supposed to provide that to you, but obviously you could do, besides discovery, if you got a ticket somewhere, you could do OPRA requests on that same information. One of the OPRA requests that you can request is the Brady Giglio list to see if he's on it. And if he is, because they really don't want to tell you that. They want you to plead guilty to some lesser charge or plead whatever.
They want to make it go away.
But if you find that out, I wanted the trial. He can't even testify. And a lot of times when I've asked for that in the past, clerks have no idea what it is.
Because they've never seen it before.
Right. Or nobody's ever questioned them, or the prosecutors never given it to the defense attorneys because they even have no idea it exists. But it's state law.
Me, I never knew.
Yeah, Brady Giglio.
All right, let's wrap this up. Tim, what do you got left to say?
Well, I want to thank Mr. Ronco for all the good work that he's done so far, and I look forward to us working with Mr. Ronco in the near future. And in the next, I guess, week or two, we're going to submit a second internal affairs complaint to the Tinton Falls Police Department, see what comes of it.
Right, and
Look forward to it.
the phone number to the IA and is written on my page. I'm sure you're going to write it in your thing. Everybody can call up, do an IA, and when you do that, they'll have to respond to you. So give them whatever name you want, anonymous name, and give them your email address. You don't even have to give them your home address. That way they have to respond to you, and let's see how many IAs they get, and maybe they'll stop this behavior of just harassing citizens. It's not right.
Trying to justify their existence.
Right. We have a right
most
just to
importantly
be.
with Tinton Falls, we want to clean it up and get rid of the bad cops. See, that's really what all our mission is.
Right.
Is to get rid of bad cops, and we have identified what we believe to be a bad cop.
Right. So then we can request all his stuff, continue on it. Our attorney general that left, they just released all the bad cops. Some of them DUI on duty.
Yeah, it was a new report. I haven't had a chance to take a look
so
at that
there's
yet.
a lot of stuff out there, and it's just a matter of doing the public records request and getting that information and putting it out there.
Check the mic
All right,
and
I'm
make sure
John
it
Van
sound
Dyke.
right,
I'm here
boys.
with the Bronco Man. Go visit his YouTube channel. I'll put the link in the description. It's in this day and age. He has the dash cam video up there. You got it before I did. We have our legal mind, Matt Tim. There he is. Folks, I don't have to tell you anymore. Bad cops belong in jail. We gotta support the good ones, but the question is, what is a good cop? You guys know what a good cop is?
Sound right, boy.
Crickets. Till next time, people.
It sound right, boys.